So what is fact?
Well, that's a great question. So let's think of it in terms of relative and absolute.
Mhm.
Our relative lives are our lives where we are largely having an experience of being individuals, subject to cause and effect, and where our experience is fairly dualistic. We're subject to karma. That's relative experience. And of course, we have to pay attention to that. Relative experience is two different things for us. First of all, it's the means by which we find our home in the eternal. In a sense, we walk back through dualistic experience, which contains all the seeds of wisdom of the absolute. It's basically our material to help us to rediscover the natural state and who we really are. So that's one thing that dualistic experience is, and relative experience. The other thing that it is this magnificent display of all of the jewels of wisdom of this alive, aware reality. So when we stop suffering, when we discover who we really are, what we really are, the nature of reality, and we are being immersed in that living awareness, then we enjoy all of this display like jewels, infinite jewels. Of course, the dualistic experience for a lot of us is also the place where we experience suffering, or the form of awareness that in which suffering arises. But as Ma said, this alive aware reality, aka God, creates those experiences so that we can continue to wake up. So locally, within our dualistic experience, you could say there are facts. And facts are not truths. So they don't exist like truths, in some sort of like truth sky. This is a fact. It exists here somewhere. It's not a concept. It's actually experiential. Fact is experiential. So the fact is that if I shoot myself up with disinfectant or Clorox, I'm going to get sick and I might die. And definitely, if I have COVID-19, I will not be cured. That is not a fact in the sense that it's like a fact for all time, all spaces, all circumstances. It's an experiential outcome that can be verified over and over again by lots of different people. So that's what facts are. They're basically practical and experiential ways of working with things that have some efficacy, that have some result that one would think it would have, or you would want it to have. Right? So conspiracy stories are fun. That's their result. They're fun for the people doing that, but they aren't so fun for a lot of other people.
And they can be fact for people who experience that as fact.
Right. I mean, people who think that the earth is flat, who must also be terribly afraid of flying. They could they could fly forever and never get to the edge. I'm sure they have an explanation for that, but it's a fun thing, but it doesn't result in any experiential verification.
But if you look at the horizon, you can see why they experience the world as flat.
Yes. If they never go anywhere. Yes.
You don't know anything about geography or natural sciences.
Right.
Yeah.
So from the absolute perspective, or the non-relative perspective, or you could say the non-dual, but even that's kind of an inadequate word. As Abhinavagupta said, and as Ma said, they both said exactly the same thing in almost exactly the same words. God makes the impossible possible and the possible impossible. And that's basically saying that this alive reality has an unlimited capacity to produce whatever experiences, whatever circumstances it wants to. And so that is what we call what?
Swatantriya.
Swatantriya. Right? In the Trika tradition, we call this total freedom of self-expression Swatantriya. So from an absolute or non-dual perspective, there are no facts. Facts are real in the sense that it's a concept that has been, the concept of the fact or factuality, just like the concept of objectivity, has been produced by this subjective supreme self. So it's real in that sense. It's like a real phenomenon, but it's not actually a thing.
Mhm.
Like there are no facts that exist independent of the concept of the fact.
Mhm.
Shambhavi,
Yeah.
is that the same thing as saying that a fact is only a fact if someone experiences it as a fact?
Yes. But I mean, someone could say something's a fact very vehemently, claim it's a fact, but have no experience of it being a fact. Right? So that's what we call either a belief or a lie. So, our glorious president can say and state that it's a fact that if you inject yourself with Clorox, that will cure you of COVID-19, but that's not a fact. He may state it's a fact, and maybe some people believe that's a fact, but there's no experience to back that up. So it's not
Okay.
just what anyone believes, it's what is experientially in a local way, a very local way, local in time, local in culture, local, planetary local, I don't know. Everything that is relative is local in some scale, even if it's very large scale. But the actual concept of a fact is it's something that is verifiable in some way. Without verification, it's either a lie or a belief. Or a hypothesis. That's, we could be more generous. It could be a hypothesis.
It seems like it has a lot to do with the senses in terms of experience, or like
Mhm.
Anna's example of the world being, or seeing the horizon. Like someone whose senses only go as far as like, I'm standing here and I see
Mhm.
the horizon, so I say the world is flat. But the other tools that you were talking about, like if you fly around in an airplane, it becomes more obvious that it's not flat.
Yeah, you'll run out of fuel before you get to the edge of the earth.
So another follow-up question, does that mean that before airplanes existed that the world being flat was a fact because people experienced it as a
Mhm.
fact?
No, they didn't experience it as a fact. They experienced something that they interpreted that way,
Okay.
but they didn't have any verification for it.
So it was a belief.
It was a belief based on a perception that was incomplete. Just like we have incomplete wisdom, we all have incomplete perceptions. Some of us just have more incomplete perceptions. And when we live in a time, for instance, where for the average person, there's never going to be any counter proof that what I see as the horizon isn't just a ledge that one could fall off of. Then that becomes a fact, but it's not actually verified.
So we didn't actually verify the Earth until we probably landed on the moon and took that picture from the moon.
No, that's not true. It was verified by, I think, European scientists.
But that was all
at some point,
mathematical.
hundreds of years ago. Well, it had to do with observing something about this rotation, and I don't know the whole thing, but we could Google it. Let's not hypothesize.
Let's ask Google.
Let's ask Google.
Fact source.
Yeah, but the thing is, so here, get this, that this is why it's always local. Because what if now we think the Earth is made of rock and all the things that we think it's made of, and it has a molten core, and then down the road sometime, scientists catch up with yogis and they realize, that the density and materials that we think the Earth is composed of are just experiences being produced by a consciousness, then that fact changes, right? So this is why fact is local with respect to what access to wisdom does one have. Mm-hmm.
And then what are truths?
Nothing. They're just concepts. Like truth and fact are both concepts.
No, you said something about at the beginning. There was facts, but then it's not truth.
I don't think I said that.
Oh.
So another teacher who turned out to be a horrible child abuser, so I won't say his name, but he did say something. Some of you know who I'm talking about. He said, I'm not talking about truth. I'm talking about reality. So truths, just like facts, are local and aspect of dualistic experience. Reality itself is a vast subjectivity filled with wisdom that can create out of itself anything, including all things contradictory. So true can be untrue, and fact can be unfact, and anything goes, basically.
And it's our own senses that limit our experience of that vastness.
It's not our senses that limit it, no. It's the limitation that our senses are temporarily experiencing.
Mm-hmm.
Our senses are actually our only tools, including our mind, because remember that in all of these kinds of traditions, the mind is also a sense organ. So our senses are the only tools we have to discover the real nature of reality. So there's nothing inherently limiting about our senses. Our senses are just limited temporarily. That's the nature of karma. Okay. So when we're doing sadhana, that's what we're doing. We're releasing our senses from limitation. We're opening the gates of the senses in this way that is unimaginable to most people.